This is Rich Parks, and this is the Break It Down Show.
Hell yeah. I love it. First off, one of the things I love, and I think you'll appreciate this, Richard, the my show was established enough that it also books itself. I didn't seek you out. You had a friend, a mutual friend of ours, Scott Shipman,
Yeah.
who connected us and said, would you mind having my friend Richard Parks on the show? I think he's a great person and a fun author. And so you think about, I've built a machine that books itself a lot of the time. How crazy
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the word of mouth, technology, and all that. I used to be a waiter, busser at a place, and the owner had not spent a penny in advertising in like 8 years.
Wow.
Didn't have to, and we were packed. It was all word of mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and this is the modern media world. We were just talking off mic about how if you sell books, you're selling them on Amazon. Even the Penguin and Random House, right? I've had their authors on my show a lot of times. They sell their books on Amazon.
Yep.
And there is no Walden Books. Yeah, there's a Barnes and Noble, but even they have had to adapt to stay relevant. And it's an amazing time that someone can say, I don't need a major publisher. I'm just going to sell on Amazon or even sell on my own website. It's incredible the amount of access that the creators have to the marketplace.
Yeah, exactly. And it used to be when you went to, the major publishers, they would help market your book and all of that. Now, we'll publish it. We'll put you in Publishers Weekly. We'll give you the ISBN number. After that, it's up to you. We're not going to help you with anything.
Right.
So, I mean, why go with them? And you have to wait years and years before anyone's going to say, oh, yeah, we'll publish your book. Here, my next book, I'm going to publish in October. I just started the 1st of August, and it'll be published in October.
How do you hold yourself accountable on editing? I mean, it's one thing to write books. It's another thing to sell them, but to pay for the cost to produce a book is pretty substantial when you're taking that load on yourself.
Yeah, well, I don't pay an editor, which is probably evident when you read my books. But I try to be meticulous as possible. A friend of mine wrote a book about the French Foreign Legion. He was a former legionnaire, and he went through all the things, get an agent, get it published, and after the publisher published it, he's going through the book, and there's like 100 glaring mistakes, and this is from a publisher.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I have that many glaring mistakes. I have a few, but not. I don't think the obvious ones.
Yeah. Does that hurt sales?
Well, actually, what hurts sales is I don't really do a lot of marketing. I'm one of these people. I want to write. That's my job, right? And I don't want to spend. Spending all this time, trying to market. This is really the first time I've done any outside of Amazon marketing. So we'll see it. We'll see what happens. Maybe you might make me famous.
Yeah. I mean, hey, weirder things have happened. Like legitimately weirder thing. A dude rode a skateboard one day with a cranberry, ocean spray bottle, and everybody went bananas, right? I mean, that's like the longest long shot of all time. To make a video of that and have that not only make you notable, but bring back a song from 50 years ago and make it relevant. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
And also promoted promoted a product that people just
yeah. I mean, it's an amazing thing, right? That these things can happen. And even if you don't get that version of it, even if 10 people discover you and they like your vibe, wow. 10 people. Here's the thing that people don't realize is, like, my show's been around for a long time, 10 years, 2,000 plus episodes. You've been doing the similar kind of thing with all of your writing, 10 books. If you can get 100 people to read your books, you're one of the most successful authors of all time. Now, can you make a living like that? No, but to write 10 books and just have a very small audience, and you're already so far down the road from someone who can't get past page 4 of their first novel.
Yeah, well, and the nice thing about Amazon is the ebooks. I can periodically offer them for free. In fact, the Labor Day weekend, all my books are available free download. So if you don't want to pay for it, download it for free. But here again, most people says, "Oh, I'm going to write a book, and I really want to write a book." and they never do. So just writing a book and getting it, writing a book, whether it's published or not, that's an accomplishment. And then I've published, whether I'm self-published or not, that's a major accomplishment. And looking at my ebook sales, I've had people in Japan, Brazil, India, United States, in Canada, and Mexico.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's incredible. I mean, like, you're an international writer, right? Like, that's.
Yeah, I'm an international phenomenon. And here again, that's another reason why Amazon is so cool, is they are global. So when you put your book on Amazon, it's available to the world.
So there's another thing too that you're discussing, and I'm a purveyor of this too, especially when people want to make a podcast, and people who don't know, and they don't know, like, if you describe it, they still don't know, like, where to put their mark and where they're at, right? So I am a guy who is production over perfection. Yeah, there'll be some errors. We'll get over that. Does Pete have the ability to write? Yes, I can write. Can I talk on a camera? Yes, I can talk on a camera. Am I perfect? No. Am I going to spend money and time chasing perfection? For the most part, no. Now, look, sometimes you have to, but I don't worry about that. I'd rather get the product out. I'd rather have the show with you. And I'm not using my first best camera right now because it's hot outside in the trailer, and I'm like, hey, we're going to have a great chat no matter what. So that idea of perfection and how it inhibits production, and production, I think, is more important today. If I'm doing more shows than the average show, then I'm going to get to more people. I'm going to network more times. I'm going to have more opportunities. And so I almost like dialing for dollars when you're, doing sales. If you do 100 calls, and that's the average, well, I'm going to do 200, and we'll just see who's asked, because I'm just going to outwork that problem. So I like production over perfection.
Yeah, I mean, you look at, like, Van Gogh. He sold one painting, and that was to his brother. He just wanted to paint. That's what he wanted to do, and that's what he did. Now we consider him a great artist. So maybe I'll become really famous after I die.
Do you care if you're really famous?
No, not really. I mean, I'm too old to develop a coke habit, so I really don't want to get too famous.
Yeah. I mean, you get to do what you want to do. I don't know how much money you make on your books, but you make money with your books, right? So it's not like you're paying money for that. And all of a sudden, you've got a lot of freedom. And I think freedom, for me, from my point of view, with what I get to do, is significantly more valuable than fame.
Right. I mean, if it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, I'm still doing something that 99% of the world never does.
Right.
They say they want to, but they never do it. It's like when I get older and I'm going to retire, that's when I'm going to travel. I've traveled. I mean, I've been around the world. I've been to a rodeo and all these places. So it's like, I don't need to retire to go do these things. I've already done them.
Yeah, same. Because I don't make a lot of money with a show. There's money here, right? But it's not like, wow, I can see why you do that. Like, no, that's not going to happen. But I get a lot of opportunities to do things. And a lot of times they're free. A lot of times it's me working to do those things. So I find myself in this country or at this event or talking to this famous person. And those experiences, that is me traveling. Would I like to travel a little more? Sure, but not a whole lot more, because I like my life right here. It's really enjoyable.
Well, I mean, I've traveled a lot of places. I mean, there's only a few places I'd like to travel to, but if I don't travel those places, it's okay. I have been to enough places, and I have those memories. I don't need to add anymore.
Right. When we look at what it takes to do things like write novels and have a podcast, or make money being a photographer. These are dream jobs, right? So like you make movies like, oh, that guy's a podcaster. He lives in New York City. That actually is a TV show, right? Like, that's how much of a dream that it is. So obviously an author is like a premise for, I don't know, half the movies ever, it seems like, right? Like someone who's got this. These are dream jobs. Do you realize that you have a dream job?
Yeah. I mean, I get to choose my hours. I get to set my own deadlines. I get to choose what I'm going to write about. I get to choose. The thing with being an author is you get to be God, because you get to create a world. You get to create people, and if you like someone in your, like one of your characters, you give them all the benefits and all that. And if you don't, you kill them off. I mean, what better job is there? How many other jobs out there that you can create a world and do all these wonderful things? That's what's wonderful about being a fiction author.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You're playing God, and you get to tell me about your boss. Tell me about that dude that makes you sit down at that typewriter and come up with these ideas. How's that guy?
That's me. But the thing I learned this from my writing guru from years ago, a guy by the name of Tom Bird, and he says, you're in the zone when you're writing, and you're not writing. Your character says, "Excuse me, I got it. I'll take care of it from here," and you're just translating whatever they're telling you. If you've created your characters well enough, they're going to take over. Now you have to be careful because sometimes the characters want to go off, some directions. No, that's not where I want to take the story. I got to bring you back. Right. Here's the story, and that's one of the problems that people want to start to be writers. Is you got to create your characters, not just, my character is Bob, he's 6'2". Now, Bob has a personality. Bob has a backstory. Bob has a history. Bob has problems. Bob, all these things that Bob has, you have to know as the writer before you start writing.
Yeah. When you think about so if I try to write, and it's more of a hobby for me than anything else. Maybe I'll write a book one day. Maybe I'll write 5 books. Who knows? But right now, I enjoy writing, and mostly I write about baseball because I can sit down, I can knock that out in several hours and write something that I'm pretty happy with. But when I write novels, the characters all seem to want to have sex, and I'm like, now I'm writing a porn novel. It's 100% true, and I'm like, stop trying to have sex with everybody, And but it's one of the things, and I laugh about it. And I think, God, I don't want to write a porn novel, but apparently my brain and my characters all want to get into bed together. What are your thoughts?
Well, since I want to, market my book to the widest audience, I don't write porn. I mean, I hint at things, maybe a little, double entendre. But I'm not writing a sex manual. You want a sex manual? You can go and buy a sex manual. Don't come to me. You're coming to me because you want to be entertained. Right. And then here again with my violence, I have some violence, but I don't get this graphic, the chainsaw went to his guts and viscera, erupted all over and blah, 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 blah. That's not exciting to me. And I don't think most people would find that all exciting. Most people. I mean, there's always some people that like the sex, they like the violence. But I'm not writing for them.
Yeah. How do you know who your audience is? How much do you worry about your audience, and how much do you like? Again, there's 2 schools of thought here, right? Here's a good book right here. Here's Rick Rubin saying, "Hey, do what is good. Don't worry about the audience. They'll take care of themselves." And so there's that school of thought, and then there's like who's your avatar? Who are you talking to? And they're both good approaches. And in the middle somewhere is probably where I am. But what about you? How much do you buy the audience?
I try taking the zeitgeist of the time and says, okay, here is the story. Here is what's going on culturally. There's a story here. There's some characters here. And I'm really not, and because it's pervasive or ubiquitous in the society, if I write a story like that within these confines, then I'm going to have an audience. But I'm not picking a particular audiences. I'm going to write for these people or that people.
Yeah. I guess for me, it's a little bit of both, I suppose. Like I don't really worry about the audience. Like I appreciate it. I interact with them. A lot of them have become my friends, so there's that part of it. Anybody who wants to reach out to me can, Pete at breakitdownshow.com. I'm pretty available. But if you want to influence the show, this is what Pete would say. Book somebody. Scott Shipman did. He's like, I'm going to get my buddy on the show. And I'm like, yeah, of course, let's go. Like, I don't even, just on the strength of Scott saying, hey, I want to bring someone on the show. I hadn't even heard the word of Richard or Parks. And it was like, yeah, let's do it. So there is a lot of audience influence, but But that's also because my life is like this, right? Like I find myself sitting at an Applebee's talking to someone, and now I know that person, and they're in Louisiana, and so I check in, and so you add these people into the way I run my thing.
Mm.
I add people into this mix of people, and then all of a sudden someone says, "Do you know anybody?" And I become someone that you say, "Do you know anybody to?" And I'm like, I actually do know somebody, So it's an interesting way to build. It's not a business when you look at it, you don't go, "That's a fine running business that Pete has built." I don't know about yours, but if you were to look under the hood of my business, you'd be like, "What in the fuck are you doing?" That's what you would say, because it doesn't make any sense. And the second I have a heart attack and drop dead, no one's going to be able to make money doing what I do, because I am the engine, the gas, the wheels, the steering wheel. I'm everything, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'd want somebody to do much to help me out, because I'm pretty particular about what works for me and what doesn't.
Well, that's the thing. I'm an entertainer first and foremost.
Okay.
There are writers out there, there are authors out there who I have met over the years, and they think they're writing great classical stuff. My stuff is going to be studied in colleges and such. And I'm going like, I don't really care. I'm writing to entertain you. If I can entertain you for an hour or two, I've accomplished my job. If I don't entertain you, that's still fine. You bought my book, you read a few pages. I'm okay with that too. But speaking of the way you're talking there, like I said, I was a busser waiter at a local cafe bistro, and I used to stand up jokes, with my customers, and it got to the point to where people would actually come on the weekends, which was when I worked. They would come in on the weekends just so they could see me and they could hear my latest joke. Burning Man. I live in Reno. So Burning Man is the place everyone goes to before they go out to Burning Man. And when they're done, they come through Reno when the place is open. It's now closed. So I had people that I met, they'd come in, and then the next year it says, "Oh, I remember you. You were telling jokes." So there are people from around the world that would come in to the place and says, "Yeah, last year." And so I understand where you meet people, and you never know who you're going to meet. You never know, what that's going to lead to.
I was thinking about this part of what we're talking about too. When you build your own business, you don't know what it's going to lead to. There's also the things that we're supposed to do that we don't have to do because we run our own business and we have a good bit of freedom in that. But what should you be doing? And I'll just say, here's what I should be doing. Probably should be advertising more. I should probably stick my neck out and do a little more time figuring out how to spend $500 a month on being more discoverable. Is that going to turn an investment back for me? Likely not, so I don't do it, and I put that money into other things. But I'm a little stubborn on that. So Pete would say, "Pete, you should probably advertise just a little bit more." What do you need to be doing differently on the business side?
On the business side, like you said, I need to advertise more. Get a website, be on social media, do this, do that. Maybe get a publicist, get someone who can help market my stuff. But I looked at this. Let me hire someone, because I don't want to go and learn all this other stuff. And the return on investment, I make about $1 a book. The actual printed book. I make about $1. So if I want to pay one of these people, which $20,000-$30,000, which is not unreasonable for these people,
right?
So that means I got to, let's say it's $20,000. I actually have to sell 25,000 because I got to cover that cost plus the taxes, because Uncle Sam doesn't know all that stuff. I sell 20,000 books. They want the $20,000 that want to pay tax. So I got to sell more, but no publicist is going to say, "Yes, I can guarantee I will sell you X number of books."
Yeah.
I'll do my best, but maybe you will, maybe you won't. So I'm going, like you says, I'd much rather put my efforts into production and not into all these other things. If it happens, yeah, great. If it doesn't, yeah.
The reality too is, if you had a publicists are great, and maybe you would sell a lot of books, but just getting back to break even, there's going to be some follow on, like, hey, some of these people are going to continue to buy books, and maybe they'll buy back catalog, but 25,000 is really just, it's not even worth your time, because you should be getting 45,000 back or something, some number closer to that, so that the investment allows your business to grow, not just like kind of like trickle up. Like we need a real like bang for our buck, right?
Right.
And this is where I struggle. So to this point, like Google will throw me free money if you advertise with us. We'll triple your buy. Wow, you'll triple. So if I give you $500, you give me $2,000 in advertisement. Still not worth my time and money, And so they struggle to understand how to reliably grow my business. I struggle to reliably know how to build my business, right? And so when I say that, it becomes a very challenging thing. And then I think I should just go spend time looking to connect with people that could help me in ways that drive money more. And instead of worrying about PR, just network harder. For me, that is a more reliable thing. I probably do too much of that because I enjoy that more. So where is the hard work that I need to do if it's not advertising? I don't know. And I'm always trying to figure out what that is.
Well, when you're entertaining, what is business? If you're spending your time on business and focusing on what is my business, how do I improve my business, and you're an entertainer, whether you're a dancer, a singer, actor, author, whatever, is that improving your ability to entertain? And I would say no, it doesn't. Which is why all these musicians and all these creative people, they have agents supposed to do the business end, so they're free to go and improve their dancing, their music, and all this other stuff. But I'm sure bands down where you live, they're popular there. They're never going to go national,
right?
They have a following, and their business model is just basically stay local, and it pays the bills maybe, and that's where they're at. That's where they're at, and that's where I'm at. I'll do my thing. I network with a few people here, but I want to focus on the creative side.
And this is a real thing. So I'll have someone on my show. Actually, I've got some coming up on I don't have his book. It's in the other room. His name's MP Woodward. He's such a good author. He writes for the Tom Clancy universe, and it's a dream job. That's a dream job within a dream job, like, wow, you really have done something crazy, right? And he's got a balance between, because you don't get to write your own stuff as much when you're working for Tom, and working for Tom is great for your own stuff because there's some washover. But the more successful you get, the less you get to do the thing that you thought was your dream job. I mean, how many people have Lucille Ball got into running a studio, instead of being on TV all the time? It was like, oh, I've got to run this studio. And so now you're doing something you love and you're creating things, but what you wanted to do was be an actress, and you got to be that, but it got to be so big that you had to do other things like run your business. And this happens all the time with success, because the business demands more of your attention. You get to do less of how many rappers have become something else and they don't get to rap anymore, and they're like, well, I make so much more money acting. I enjoy that. I can't go back to trying to sell records out of the back of my car, So we have this challenge of success. Like in my field, when I was a spy, I got to stay at the ground level. And, in the military, normally you graduate up away from the tactical things. And so because I worked more laterally, I got to stay there, and I got really good at field collection. It's the same thing in the entertainment business for a lot of people. It's like, hey, I love acting. It's my favorite thing to do, but I get paid to be behind a camera doing this. And so you're always fighting that battle of, is this going to be the thing that I suffer to do? Because most of us have to do that. Or am I going to allow the business part of my career to take off and be successful at the expense of the expressive part of my career?
Well, speaking of actors, I mean, there are actors out there that love doing the creative things. They take roles that are creative, but they also take roles because it's good business. It makes them money. I think it was Michael Caine said, have you seen Jaws 2? He goes, no, but it built me in my new house. So that was the business. I need a new house, and so I'll do this movie.
Yeah. There's also the thing where we used to have a lot more attention on So you could be an international act, you can be a regional or national act, you can be a regional act, you can be a local act. And if you're in a
Yep.
local band doing covers, let's say you're doing that 100 nights a year. That's a dream job. You may not make a lot of money, but man, your richness of life is going to be off the charts.
Oh
Are
yeah.
you going to buy a house? I don't know, but you could do that as a part-time job and have a lot of joy. And I'm saying just being a guy that plays covers, right? If you happen to be a regional act and now you're traveling a multi-state area, say you're a regional headliner for comedy, but that's a real job. That's a real job that you can make $100,000 a year if you're hustling. A lot of that money goes right back out the door, but you can maintain a pretty high quality of life doing that. And it's remarkable that when we think about success in entertainment,
Mm.
that we think about I need to be, I don't know, Chris Pratt. Like, no, you don't need to be Chris Pratt. You just need to figure out how to survive and then see if you can go up from there at each level and just figure out how to get to the point where you thrive and then your career continues to grow. And then also be ready, because that whole balloon can deflate in a second. And then you have to, well, none of this matters. I know how to build this thing. I'm just going to build it again and go forward. But we lose sight of that on the way to that prize. We forget that you can have quite a bit of success, at a very regional and local level. Again, 10 fans is a lot of fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they used to have the Catskills in upstate New York.
Yeah.
You had people up there who were incredibly successful in the Catskills. They were not known outside of the Catskills. A few of them, to make ends meet, they would go down to New York City when the Catskills season ended, and they would get on a TV show in New York City, which widened their Red Buttons as a comedian. That he was a Catskill person, came down to New York City, did some shows, and he became famous. But here again, one of the things is, okay, I want to be really famous. I want to be well known and all of that. Well, that comes with responsibilities and duties. And some people just don't want that responsibility. Why are you bothering me?
Right.
Well, you're famous. I want to bother you because I want your autograph. I want your picture.
Yeah.
But I don't. But you made yourself famous. Why did you make yourself famous? And then turn around and tell me, the people who made you famous, you don't want me. No. If you're going to go for the prize, you have to accept. You gotta take it. And if you don't want that prize, then don't push it.
Yeah. There is a responsibility you have, and you definitely trade your freedom creatively. I mean, let's say the Eagles are touring, and they haven't stopped touring in decades now.
Yeah.
They owe that fan group a show, and it's the same show they have to play 300 nights out of the year, however many nights they want to. They probably don't work 300, but they work a lot. And when they say, here's one from our new album, they are letting the crowd down, even though, like, why are you scared about the Eagles releasing just love that, But we're all like, no, just play Hotel California, So we have this thing where you have a responsibility. These people, you ask them to give you $500 to sit in a chair in a building, and they said yes, and you know exactly what they want, and you have to give it to them. You don't get to do 7 new songs. Not very often. Very few acts can do that and be a business that is at the front edge of that industry.
But also, too, you talk about obligation to the fans. If you're an entertainer, you also have obligations to the people behind. For musicians, you got your whole staff here, the tuners of your guitar and the drums, the drivers, and all these other people that are now beholden to you. Their lives depend on your success, and when you go down, they lose it. They lose their lives. So you have to keep that. You have to keep that in mind. That's why I don't want to be that famous. I don't want to be obligated. That I have to. That Bob has to is dependent on my success for them to pay their bills and such.
Yeah, and I guess what we're describing here is that freedom, fame, balancer, and it's like, man, freedom is so much more delicious. Yes, it's harder living in terms of money, but if you have a lot of money and you're never home, it's like that's a hard version of life too. So yeah, we get to create things, and that's the wonderful part.
Well, I was in the IT world compliments of Uncle Sam and the American taxpayer. They trained me in the computers and all of that. So I got out, and that's what I did, as a civilian. I go, this is really wonderful, and I'm making, some righteous money. And I was working for a law firm at the time in DC. And I went to a movie on a Saturday. It wasn't working hours, but I was on call. And the movie starts, and I get a phone call from one of the lawyers having problems with his computer. So I have to leave the theater, help him with the problem. By the time I came back, I'm looking at the credits. So I paid for a movie that I never got to see, because this lawyer was an idiot. So, I don't know. I mean, I prefer just, like I said, just to create. I don't want all this other stuff that goes on.
I don't have a copy of the book with me here, everybody, but just check this out. These are Nightmares Start with a Dream. Here comes the book. Boom. And it's a Reuben Miller adventure. You can see the link down below here. Here's how you support a dude like Richard. We're here talking about all the stuff that he does. 10 different novels. Some of them are not available on Amazon right now as he grapples with the boss man, but that's all right. I definitely encourage you guys to just, hey, look, these things don't cost that much. Spend a couple bucks, see if it's your jam. If not, leave it at the Starbucks for someone else to read. Maybe it's their jam. Buying books is a big thing. Authors, it's how they make their money. And a guy like Richard, hey, would you give him $1 to write a book? Yeah, I bet you would. So do it. Buy a book and see what happens. That's my pitch I'm trying out now. We'll see how I do on selling books. I get a lot of, I'm saying this and I'll shut up. I get a lot of books. I've got stacks of books that I didn't write, and I keep some of them, but most of them I try to give to somebody else, because that's the next thing I can do for that author is go, hey, I've read this book. This computer is sitting on probably 24 books right now. That's why it's so high. And so I give them out, and everybody's like, really? This is for me? And I'm like, yeah, it's a great book. I read it myself. And then my hope is that they read it and they're like, you know what, that was a good book. And then maybe they buy the next one. So that's what I do. So everybody go out and buy a book. And I always say, buy 2 and give one to a friend. All right, I'm shutting up about books now. Okay.
Yeah, well, that's fine. And that's what I like, about Amazon, what I mentioned earlier, is you can do some free ebooks. I can do free ebooks as the author, so I can introduce, I don't know if I want to spend the money, but I'll do something for free. If I can download a book for free, since everyone has e-readers and such, so reading a print version is like, oh, that's rather so, 20th century.
Right.
So it's like, oh, great. That's one of my little marketing things that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. What works if you were going to spend, if I gave you $1,000, I'm like, I want you to spend this money. Don't need it back. I'm just going to give it to you so your business can do well. Where do you put that $1,000? And it is fine to say in my belly, I'm going to drink a bunch and eat a bunch of steaks and just enjoy it. Thank you. But what do you think?
Well, if looking from an author's point of view, I mean, Amazon has some marketing things I could do. I might put the $1,000 to try one of the marketing options that Amazon has to see if it influences sales.
Yeah.
Give it from that shot. Otherwise, I just put it to my credit card and pay it down. one of the two.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I am a scupper of money, and it's just a little bit of money, and I just got paid my federal thing for my disability, and that money went back out the door. Back to being a $10 heir. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. Everyone wants to be rich. Everyone wants to be wealthy.
Yeah.
But they all want to be rich enough so they can buy more stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Now, when you're getting to like the Jeff Bezos, you're getting to the Elon Musk and the Bill Gates, everyone says, oh, man, that's really wonderful. No, it's not. Because now you got to have security to protect you. If you have a family, you got to have security for your family.
Yeah.
You can't go out. I met Tim Mellon of Mellon Bank, Carnegie Mellon and such. And he says, I can't have friends. I can only have friends of other people who are wealthy or people that I've known over the years, and they don't care that I'm wealthy. But once I get, wealthy, I can't have friends. I don't know who my friends are. Someone says, oh, they're really friendly, but eventually they're going to say, well, I want something from you. I'm expecting something from you. So you get to that level, and That's what ruins people when they win the lotteries. Oh man, I just won $300 million in the lottery. My take after I pay the taxes. What? This is great. Then everyone, they get all these relatives and all these friends and all that. They're in worse shape, years later financially than they were before they had the lottery.
Yeah.
Because most people don't understand money. They don't understand large money.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's true. If you win 300 million, let's say that you get a little less than half of that, depending on the state that you live in and everything else. That's plenty of money for the rest of your life if you can live on a very large budget. The thing is always eating away at that very large budget. Like you wouldn't. I'm not saying you don't buy a house, but you don't need to buy a house. You could just Airbnb the rest of your life and not have the cost of.
Well, if you're going to buy a house, you don't have to buy the 10,000 square foot, six.
Right.
You don't need that. How many people need that many bedrooms? How many people need that many bathrooms and the acreage? You're never going to use it. You're never going to adequately use it.
Yeah, it's true. And it's funny. We had a home. We'll say a home goods store right by us here, and they went out of business. And it's a pretty big brand, but they had all the shit that I don't need. I don't care if it's 20% off or 40. Now it's 50. I just don't need a candelabra. I don't need another mattress. And look, someone needed some of that stuff, and if you were at the right time, sure, okay, maybe you buy that stuff. But I just don't need 5 more blankets. I don't. And so I've got what I need. And I've one of the things that I think we learn is that whatever I have, I probably can do with a little less. And so I compress my pile of stuff that I keep around all the time. I give out books, not because I want to get rid of them, but also I want them to go out to other people. My book that I have that you gave to me, it doesn't do you any good sitting in my house not being read anymore. So how do I turn this thing into something valuable? And so, I get less and less stuff. If I won $300 million, I wouldn't work very hard the rest of my life. but I also wouldn't spend a lot, my budget would be, I don't know, $6 million a year, which is ridiculous, but that's all I would need. And I would never run out of money during my life.
Yeah. Well, the thing with, you're winning lots and lots of money. For me, I don't think it would change much. I'd buy a house because I've never owned a house. So now I have the means to buy it. But I'm not buying this big McMansion. It's only me. So I'm okay with buying a 1,200 square foot house.
Yeah.
2-bedroom. Well, I might actually go, 2 bedrooms and like 3 rooms for libraries because I have a bunch of books. And, my bedroom, but, I don't need a lot. These people that go and they get all this money and they buy a supercar, great. I can buy a Bugatti Veyron. I can't drive it. The Bugatti Veyron goes 350 miles an hour. Name me a road that I can drive it. All I'm buying it for is so I can drive down the street and says, oh, look, he has a Bugatti Veyron. He must be wealthy. And being wealthy doesn't make you happy.
Yeah. You could absolutely drive one of those 100 days a year and just either lease it or rent it for the day at the track that you rent. And you can get a bunch of your friends. Hey, we're going to rent the track. It's on me. Come down. You want to give a couple $100, whatever, donate that to charity. So I'll spend $10,000 today. And I'm going to have my car and everything else. And we're just going to have a blast just ripping around this track. You could do that. You can do that all the time because you have that kind of money. But don't buy a car that you have to drive 20 miles an hour because you're going to go not get groceries with it. That's crazy.
Yeah. You're just doing it to show off.
Yeah.
The Simon and Garfunkel song, Richard Cory?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which is actually based on a poem. Another poem, but it's like Richard Cory. Everyone says, "Oh, Richard Cory, he's famous, he's wealthy, he has all these things going for him. He really must be, the happiest man in the world." And then Richard Cory puts a bullet in his head at the end. Why? Because he's not happy. The money didn't get him what he wanted. He didn't get happiness. George Sanders, the great actor George Sanders, he killed himself because he was bored. I've done, Kodak, who started a Kodak, film and cameras. He killed himself because he couldn't see any future. It's like, I've done what I wanted to do. I can't think of anything new to do. And I'm all about new. Since I can't think of anything new to do, then what's the point?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and we talked about Jeff Bezos earlier. I don't know if this is off mic or on mic, but he, the guy who founded Zappos, when they were on their way up, I used to work right across not the hall, but just like the courtyard from Zappos's headquarters. I knew a couple of guys that worked there, and it was great. And they were having a great time. But that great time turned into something that the boss man couldn't handle. And then, yeah, he's dead. And he died horribly and broke his brain with the access that he had to stuff. I'm not making a judgment about his choices, but he's not alive. And that seems like you built this company where people buy shoes and they love you for it. And it wasn't enough, right? For whatever reason.
Well, when I was making righteous money in the IT world, and I got burned out very quickly, but I had an epiphany. I was thinking, what's the different funerals? And this is when Bill Gates was, the big honcho in the world. What's Bill Gates' funeral and my funeral? What is the big difference? Well, he's going to have more important people at his funeral. His wake is going to be a lot more interesting and such. But guess what? We're both dead. He can't stuff his pockets in the casket with money, and he's going to be able to take it wherever he's going to go. I can't do the same thing. So essentially, at the end of the day, we're all the same.
Right.
So why keep chasing something that you can't take it beyond what you are at right now? Take what you have today, enjoy what you have today, and if at the end of the day you end up with nothing on your deathbed, you have zero. You came in the world with zero, you end the world with zero, but you had a good time in the beginning, throughout the life. Then what the hell? Life's success.
Yeah. So I'm not necessarily going to write a book, right? Maybe I will, but it's not writer's block. I can do this. I can do the show all the time. There's all kinds of things I can do reliably every day. I just can't reliably write for 100 days in a row. I get loaded up and then I get distracted and I do something else. Do I even need to fix that problem? Look, I've got a zillion great stories because I was a spy, right? And I probably should write a book. But and let me add a little more. I don't necessarily need to write a book for me. I know what I did. I talk about these stories all the time on my show. I go to Barnes and Noble in LA down by the farmer's market, and I'm like, why would I compete with all these books? And I don't it's important to me to think about, but it's more of a dream than something that I'm compelled to do. But there's a lot of things I am compelled to do that I work really hard on. So what do you think about my path towards a book? Any advice, any thoughts?
Well, for you, like my friend who's a Legionnaire, he wrote the Legionnaire book because he wanted to get the story of the Legionnaire and what it really is like today's Legionnaire. He wanted to share that story because there was so many myths about being a French Legionnaire, and he wanted to put those myths, put them away. But if you have certain stories that you want to share those stories, then but you don't have to write a book. Just write a story. Just write a chapter, and if that's all you do, fine. And you get enough of these chapters, you can put them together, and you got a book. But don't sit down and say, okay, I'm going to write a book. Once upon a time, I was a scrawny kid who then joins the army, who then, ends up becoming, He-Man, and I'm schlepping around, the mountains of Afghanistan and the Hindu Kush, talking to a bunch of, filthy, dirty people and trying to kill them, or they're trying to kill me. No. But, if there's a story in there, how you went from the scrawny kid to, He-Man, then you write that little blurb, and then you write maybe the little blurbs and all that, but don't write them with the idea you're writing a book. Just maybe write it this, think of it this way: what do I want people to know about me when I'm gone?
Right.
What can I tell them that they probably don't know, and I would like them to know? So write that story, and it doesn't have to be the big story, just the little story, because it's the little stories that make up our lives.
Yeah, I'm definitely a little story guy anyhow, and I love details, like hyper detail. Like if I was to describe what it's like to go on a combat patrol, it's not going to be most of the things. It's just the individual things. Like one of the images I always give is, I was in in this one era, I was working in a valley in Afghanistan. And so we would go out first thing in the morning every day. And so you'd have a little bit of time for food, but you can't put too much food in your belly because you're going to go hike for however many hours, but you need some calories. And so I would jam in, and I knew what to eat exactly. And then I would take they had these sausages wrapped in a pancake, and it's wrapped up, and just throw that in my cargo pocket of my like actually putting cargo in my pants. And I would walk out with that, and I would hammer down 1 full liter of water, bring 1 liter with me, and I'd be good for a lot of the day with that,
Yeah.
But that kind of detail, right? Like it's like combat patrol, and then you can picture it like, no, my job is to kind of fill in the gaps. Like here's what you do to prep. You don't work out too hard the day before, because if you're so sore that you can't move properly, well, now you're causing distress for a whole bunch of people in your unit as they have to wait for you. Like, oh, I worked legs. Like you have to be pliable. And all these things matter, but they aren't the things that you think about. And that's kind of the angles that I like to take when I tell my combat stories. I'll get that granular, or I'll do more things that are more strategic, but it's those granular things that I think really add in the color of what combat patrol is like.
Well, I was in a submarine, a missile submarine. You're in a submarine because you can't be on it because you get wet and it's hard to breathe after a while in the water. So I go up to the control room. It's the mid watch, so from midnight to 6 a.m, and everybody's asleep. The officer deck's asleep. The helmsmen are asleep. The chief of the watch is asleep. The quartermaster, does the navigation's asleep, or what they appear to be asleep. Because we've been drilling and spilling all day. We're really tired. And here's the lead helmsman, this brand new kid. This is his first patrol. He hasn't qualified dolphins, and he's looking around and he's seeing all these people. They're just, he's going like, I was taught in boot camp, you can't do this. You can't go sleeping, when you're on watch. And I'm going there and I'm looking at the navigation chart. I'm saying it's being updated. So he's kicked back. I'm looking at the status of the ship, and there's air in the tanks. We're all even. We're the night orders. We're supposed to be doing this speed, doing this course. We're doing exactly that. Now most people would say, "Well, that's the kind of granular story I think you would be interested in." It's not that submarine. We do this. These little stories that like, oh, you really do that. Yeah.
And these are like those bits of wisdom that you get from people like the sergeant major, who's like, if you don't need to run, walk. If you don't have to walk, stand still. If you don't have to stand, sit down. If you don't have to sit down, lay down. If you don't have to be awake, go to sleep. Do the other, you just repeat, and so you're like, hey, I can rest right now. Then rest, because you may not get a chance for 20 hours, and it's the same thing. Like, yeah, I'm doing my job. I got an alarm set in my watch. Or I've trained myself. You do that too. Like, you're like, nope, time to wake up. You're like, right on time. And then you do your little action and you go back to relaxing. Yeah, that's that granular stuff that you don't know about. No, I'm not just sleeping on the job. I am being prepared and doing my job with sleep in between it. Yeah.
And I think going back to everyone's asleep, I go up to the my department head, my lieutenant, who has this, straw hat. Talk about really non-regulation, this really raggedy straw hat. And I can actually hear him snore. So I come up there and make a little noise because I had to get him to sign some paperwork. So he goes, oh, yeah. And then he looks over to, the helmsman, mind your helm. And everyone wakes up. But, if there was a real casualty, everybody would be awake in, a New York second. Be ready, and there would have been no problems whatsoever. It was not affecting our ability to react or do whatever we had to do if time came for that.
Yeah, it's I learned to speak commander, and that's part of the reasons why I got to be a better spy. I knew how to help these guys drive what I was. I'm a weapons system for all intents and purposes. So how do you, like, if you don't know what I do, you don't know what makes me better, then how does that commander do it? And one of the things they taught me is don't tell me how to fix something. Just point out that it's broken. If I need your advice, I'll get it. And then I had to take that one step further and say, I've learned my lesson with that. I'll say to you, it's not my job to give you advice. My job to give you information. And then you'll say, no, give me, and then I have to ask them 3 times. And then I have to say these words. If I undermine the staff, they're going to stab me in the back. And then you have to say, And the commanders know themselves so well, they'll hear me saying this to them. And then you're going to say, don't worry about the staff. I'll make sure that you're all right. Okay, good. I have some ideas. And I sit down and I talk to them. But that whole dance has to happen so that the commander knows that he's the boss. Also can't have friends, because when the commander has friends, it causes trouble. And so I can't be too friendly, And so all of these things go into how do you run a combat unit. And if you have a spy like me, and I'm a very specific kind of spy, I have to communicate with the commander. I got to communicate with the sheikh. I've got to communicate with the boss above him. I might have to communicate all the way to the top, and I can do that for my commander in a way that they can't. And so once they understand how to put me to work, I'm much more valuable to him, because he can put me exactly where he wants me. And then I can create whatever messages that are there and communicate that. And that's not what we think about when we think about spies, but that's exactly what I was able to do and why I was valuable. That kind of detail, that's not in a book.
No, you can't teach it. One of the things I've learned when I learned in the Navy is you cannot teach leadership. We have leadership, schools and all that. You can't teach leadership. You're either a leader or you're not. Now, I can train you to be a manager, and I can help make you a better manager. But leaders are someone who can walk in a room and everyone says, he's in charge or she's in charge. They haven't said anything. They haven't done anything, but there's that aura about them, and that you cannot train. You cannot create that. And then there are people. I've seen an E4 tell an E5 what to do, and the E5 says, "Yes, I'll do it." Why? Because the E4 just had that personality, and it wasn't a mean personality. It's like the E5 will follow this person because E4 has that kind of personality.
Yeah.
I had a division officer. He was a lieutenant. For you, would be a captain. And the way he never gave an order. I never heard him give an order. But he would come into my work center and he'd go like, I just got my hair cut. Man, I feel so good. I feel lighter. I feel free. Man, this is really wonderful. Haircuts are the best things I can get in the military. That was his way of saying, go get haircuts.
Time to get haircuts.
Yeah, but he never said get haircuts. He would say, I'm having a great day because I got a haircut.
Yeah.
That's the kind of person you follow.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the intel world struggles with leaders. We have a lot of smart people, and we don't believe each other, So like first off, we don't have a badge. Like you guys have a thing that says I'm a submariner, right? And that means something, right? And so everybody's like, oh, okay, even if you're full of shit, you're at a higher level and you don't have to prove that you're full of shit. I walk in and I say, I'm a spy. And everybody's like, yeah, I don't believe you.
Prove it.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm a really good spy. They're like, what? You all say that, and so it's on me to prove it. It's on me to say, hey, here's what I do. Here's how I do it. You're going to see that it's valuable. I just need access, but I still have to earn it until the commander is like, man, Jesus Christ, you really were a lot of help to us. Thank you so much for what you've done. We couldn't have done this part without you, and is it easier if I had a badge and said super spy, or something like that? I don't know.
No, I don't think so, because then you're advertising I am this person, and now you're having to prove it every single minute you're awake. Whereas if you don't have the badge, you just do what you have to do, and that proves your skills and ability.
It's funny. I had Stan McChrystal on the show, and I think we had a pretty good chat. And I was telling him, it's against the rules for me to go, for everybody to go into a mosque when we're deployed to Iraq. And I said, if I was in front of you and I was working with my guy and I was talking to him and he's like, come into the mosque in front of your face, I'm going to walk right into that mosque because that's my job. And some of these rules don't apply to me. And if it's drinking and I do it right in front of you because my job is different than every other job. It's not because I'm special. It's because my job is different that I get to do these crazy things. And, like a good general, he's like, well, maybe they wanted you to drink in front of me to prove that I wasn't as in charge or something. And I'm like, yeah, maybe, but I'm still going to do it because I'm trying to become trusted by them. And if that means that they think little less of you, you're a fucking 3-star. You're a colonel. You have all the guns and weapons. You have plenty of influence. This is the part he doesn't get because he's always had power. you he is the most, whoever that commander is the most influential person in that region. There's nobody more influential than them. And so, yeah, I can drink in front of you and no, it's not going to be a diminishment to your power. Your power is limitless. You have tanks, you have
Right.
artillery, Apaches. And this is a thing where like you can be so removed and so powerful in the military. And I'm not knocking Stan at all, but
Right.
it's my job to say, hey, and I said this to a lot of commanders, especially when we were new to each other, and I would explain what I do, and I'm like, what can I answer for you? And I know I ask these questions, I know the answers, and I'll say, who or what do you need to know? And like, well, I want to know who the most influential man in this valley is, and I'm like, oh, good, I already know who that is. You just got here, and I'm like, yeah, it's you. And the second you stop being that guy, then we can see who actually is going to be in charge. But you show up into a room, everything changes.
Yeah.
And
Well,
Martin, really smart ones, got that.
well, when I was in sub school, way back many, many years ago, we had the command master chief, the senior enlisted guy in sub school, had hash marks, up to his elbows, actually past his elbows, he'd been around. But he was an E9, and so he was enlisted, and he was walking with the CO of the sub school, and this butterball ensign comes up, and the ensign, salutes, and the master chief didn't salute back. And this ensign says, "Master Chief, I'm an officer. You're not. You should, salute me back." And the CO says, "Look at the Master Chief's chest." Yeah. What about it? He has a World War II patrol pin. He's been depth charged. He has a Navy Cross. He has a Silver Star. He has a Bronze Star. Look at all that. Look at his hash marks. Why does he have to salute you? You haven't been in the Navy long enough. You salute him, and if he respects you, he'll salute you back. Right. But don't expect him, just because you're wearing that butter bar, that he has to return that salute. I'll do it because I have to, because it's my job, but he doesn't. He's earned the right not just to salute you.
It's so true. I mean, especially with World War II dudes, and they were around during our lifetime. I don't know if any World War II guys were still in the military when I was there, but maybe, probably not. Maybe there was a dude, maybe, because it was. I got in '94, so probably not. But
no.
The Korean guys, all that stuff. There is a respect thing that has to happen. And sure, on paper, that sergeant major, that master chief, is supposed to, render a salute. But I mean, it's a funny thing about saluting is, like, when you're in intel, you have the same level education as almost everybody around you. So a butter bar, you're going to salute, of course, because you're an E4. But we were both in college 2 years ago, kind of thing. And so it's like that, yeah, you took a different path than me, and I've got potentially a better job. You're in management, and I'm actually doing. So it's funny, and so I would do ridiculous things because I was in E4, I was one of the guys who was strong. So they're like, get Turner and Fuller to go do the thing. And so I would have whatever it was, one drawer safe, TV set, whatever. And whatever I had in my hands, and there's always officers in our unit because it's intel unit, I would render with that thing. So one drawer safe, and I put it out there, and I would render the sleep with the safe. And they'd be like, this is ridiculous. And so they would have to sleep back.
I converted from being a missile guy, destroying the evil empire with nuclear weapons. I went into attack, the attack world, where I get to kill the evil empire one ship at a time. So we're in the control room, and here again, this JG, this O2, a Naval Academy man who says, I'm a Naval Academy man. I have my degree. I'm really important. And I go, oh, really? Now I happen to knew most of the people in the control room at the time. I go, how many here have their baccalaureate degrees? Half of us raises our hand.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, how many here have a master's degree? A couple people. Who's a doctoral candidate? There was one person.
Yeah.
Oh, sir, it looks like, your 4-year education at the academy, education-wise, doesn't equal the people here. And he says, well, I'm an academy man, because I have this degree. And I
Yeah.
says, what's your degree? And it's, well, nuclear engineering or something like that.
Right.
I says, oh, I pointed to one of those guys, says, what's your degree in? Mathematics.
Yeah.
Not an easy degree. Oh, where'd you get it from? University of Kansas.
Yeah.
It's a university, and he has a math degree. Not
Yeah.
an easy degree to get no matter where you're at. So don't hold yourself up because I have this or I can do this. It's like no.
It's
And,
a funny story. Yeah, go ahead.
the thing most people don't understand, and people we know in the military is a lot of people who are enlisted have degrees, have
Sure.
graduate degrees, and they're
Yeah.
still enlisted. Says, why are you enlisted? Because this is where the fun is. This is where I get to do things that if I was an officer, I couldn't do. That's why I'm, I still have my education. I still want to improve my education, get better educated, but it's because I want to do the fun things that as an officer I can't do.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny how that works, right? In the higher up you get, you work at a brigade, you work at a division, you cannot brag on a degree at all. You might be able to brag on 3 degrees, but it's just common to see not 1 but 2 master's degrees from anybody, enlisted or whatever. When you're in a division, there's world-class athletes in that unit. There are people who are specific experts in something you have no idea about. And one of the things I learned pretty early was when you talk to someone, just because they're sitting there with a certain rank on their shoulder, and I mean a low rank, you shouldn't assume that they don't know what they're doing. You should assume that they're really smart, they're educated, they're hard charging. And when I fixed that about myself, because I'm kind of arrogant when it comes to like military, because I can outperform my peers in my mind every single time wherever I go. Like I'm in better shape, I can shoot. Because you have to be that way to be a field spy like I was, and I had to fix that because it wasn't serving me. And then I started realizing like there's a lot of talent here. Oh my God. Like you were a PhD in what? Why are you here? Next question.
Because because it's more fun than exercising their PhD in whatever it is. I met one of my students when I was an instructor. He was from a wealthy family, and there was a concert that was in, I forget where it was at, some weekend. So he invited some of his friends at school. Oh, we'll just go to this concert. I can get tickets for it. Yeah, but we have to be back, by Monday morning. Oh, no problem. I'll just take the family jet.
Wow.
What? Yeah, the family jet. I'll just call them up and says, they'll pick us up in Groton Airport, and we'll fly to wherever, and we'll stay at the Four Seasons or something like that. And it was like no big deal to him, because he had the money. It's like, and I've known more millionaires in the military. And here again, you're a millionaire, you're wealthy. Why are you still in the military?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fun. That's what I'm doing what I like. When I get out, I'll use my money then. But right now, this is the fun time, and I'm going to make the most of it.
Right. Yeah. Millionaires can aspire to be great amongst their peers. One of the biggest regrets people have who didn't serve, especially dudes, is they didn't get a chance to measure up. And so they don't know if they measure up, and that's a big thing. I wanted to tell you a funny thing about saluting before I forget, because it's one of these, we're all trying to learn all of like the rules to all of the proper things and everything. And so along the way, you sort of pick them up, but there's always going to be circumstances where you're like, I don't know what to do with the circumstances. So I am, and this is before combat. So yes, this is okay. I'd already deployed to Bosnia, but I'm going from A to B, and these are large spaces between barracks, and I'm just trying to get my job done. So I'm just doing like a light trot. And I come around the corner by my company headquarters, and my headquarters is headquarters to a lot of things. So when you say company, think battalion. There's just a lot of people coming through. And there is an entire platoon formation. Everybody, this is like, imagine 4 squads of 15 people each, right? It's just a box of people. And there's no one out in front of this box of people. So they're at some kind of position. They probably were at, at ease or something like that. But they are all standing in formation. And I come trucking around the corner, and I'm an E4. And I look up and I go, oh no, what do I do? Because And here's what, if you don't know drill and ceremony, here's what would have to happen. I am supposed to salute this group of people, but there was
Right.
no one in charge of their formation. So I would have to
Right.
stop, render salute.
To the
They would have to
formation.
go, to the formation, and they would have to look around and someone, oh shit, and someone have to run out and go, platoon, attention, and then go, order, render wrong, or whatever, and then they'd have to salute, put down all 30 of them, and unsalute, and then I'd have to keep on about my business. And so we all had the same mind meld moment. We're like, oh, fuck, what do we do about this? And then I just kept running. So I'm like, I don't know what the answer is. I'm out of here.
Well, the other thing with saluting, you have to have a certain distance, like about, if you're within 6 foot of an officer, you're supposed to salute.
Right.
So in sub school, being the smart asses that we are, we'd have the junior officers who are going through basic officer sub school. So there'd be a row of us, like 6 or 7 of us enlisted people, and then there'd be like
I know this
an officer. So we would all stretch out. So we only had to salute once, but this officer has to salute every single one of us each every time.
Yeah. I had the reverse of that done to me. Three of the lieutenants they saw me coming. This is in Germany, and they spaced out, and I'm like, "Oh, you motherfuckers!" And at the time, because again, don't forget, like if I had a trash bag, I was rendering a salute with the trash bag, or a mop, whatever it was, whatever ridiculous thing. Like I had the hedge trimmer one time, the one with like the long sock with the neck. That thing, bam! Like, God damn it! And now they're saluting to a damn hedge trimmer. So I was known for doing that. So those guys spread out and did the triple spread on me, and it was hilarious. It's all in good fun. But
and if you're not in the military, you're going like, why is that funny? Why is that fun? Why do you do that sort of thing? Well, it's just the thing we do in the military to have fun. Sometimes it's to show that you're not so high and on the throne, and other times to show I am high on the throne. That's why we're doing certain things. But it's all fun. It's nothing.
Yeah.
There are some people that take it seriously. You're like, okay, you are not long for the world. You should just get out and take your little arrogance someplace else, because it's not going to work in the military.
Yeah, you got to be able to get along, because at some point you might be on the same team and you might be working the same 20-hour days, and at some point, those folks get sent to other places. The ones that can't get along, they're like, oh yeah, we sent him to Bagram. And now they're in Bagram saving the world over there, and the folks that need to go do the real work get to work doing the real work. That's a real thing. That's a real thing. When that doesn't matter. Anyhow, I don't want to take any more of your time. It's been super fun talking to you. Everybody should definitely check out the books. There's the link down below. What to do.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, type in Richard Parks on Amazon, and you'll see all the stuff.
Rich Parks,
and then you guys will see that, and it's super easy. And if you can't find it, email me, pete@breakitdownshow.com. I'll talk to you about it. Anything you want to say in closing before you wrap this thing up, Rich?
Buy lots of my books. Here, let me promote another book. Waiter, There's a Joke in My Soup.
I would love it. Okay, good.
It's a book of jokes that I told when I was a waiter, busser, and I just collected them all in a book. So if you want humor, see, that's the other thing. I'm an entertainer. I can write high-tech AI. I got political thrillers. I got this joke book. My version of Mao's Little Red Books, Little Green Book, Quotable Truths. So I write a lot of things. So it's all on the website. It's all on Amazon. Buy them.
It's all on the website. It's all on Amazon.
And then this weekend you can download my books for free as an ebook.
What? That's great.
Or not this weekend. It is this weekend, Memorial or the Labor Day weekend. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to put the link for your book up there if I can get my computer to cooperate. And then right over here, I'm going to do this. Yeah, everybody go out and get them. And you're right. Like right now, especially on Kindle, it looks like your books are free. So, bam, link, bam, right down there. Waiter, there's a joke in my soup. Yeah. All right. Let me say goodbye, everybody. Hey, you all. I'm going to be gone for a couple of days, but we got stuff for tomorrow. Not tomorrow. We got something for early next week. Got Ruta Lee. I'm going to post that show, and there's a whole bunch of other
Ruta Lee, the actress.
Yes, indeed. She's a friend of mine.
Oh wow! I've seen
Yeah,
her. I just saw her on a Maverick show, the old
I
Maverick. The
I
old TV shows.
I get to meet the most amazing people. I've been to her house several times. She lives in what used to be Orson Welles' house and Joan Crawford's house. And it's an
Huh.
amazing house. It's beautiful. And she's a wonderful lady. And I just think the world of her. She's so nice. And yeah, so I'll post that show and she'll talk about the Thalians. And the Thalians, by the way, everybody look up thalians.org. I probably have a thing for this in here. The Thalians use their wealth and entertainment ability to sing and dance and entertain people and raise money to help specifically veterans. And they want to help
Mm,
veterans with mental health issues. They're connected to UCLA. So since they're going to promote stuff, check out the Thalians, thalians.org. And I'm
mm.
probably going to go to their gala in December. That's going to be at this is the thing, man. I'm going to be at the Bel Air Country Club if everything works out, uh, because they want me to be there. And not for any reason other than just because I'm willing to support those guys. That's the stuff that we get to do because you meet people and
Yeah.
they're like, why don't you come on down? Why don't we just get my family jet, whatever it's going to be? Bam. All right, I'm going to hang up here. Stay with me for a second, Rich, and I'll be right back to you. Everybody else, I'll see y'all next week.
All right.